Well, we were going to replay all day.
Intro all day long.
It's a good one.
Get our beat down.
Let's go.
It is a good one. So hello, and welcome to the show. We are live, recording live from KCDI Studios. This is CKZ. I'm Kent.
This is Zach. I'm the Zach man.
Caitlin.
Yeah, Caitlin and Whitney. Look, I did it right.
You did it right.
It's opposite. Yeah. We're so happy that you're here. We have got a awesome show for you guys tonight. Senator John Dole is here to talk to us a little bit about what's going on at the Kansas Senate and State House. Lots of crazy bills. Lots of yesterday, if you've been following along, or today, I'm sorry, was a very brutal day.
It was busy.
A lot of folks
very busy.
It was a lot.
But when is politics not busy nowadays?
Yeah.
Well, Kansas used to be a boring state. We prided ourselves on that. That used to be a saying. We're not boring anymore. We're just dramatic.
There's not enough middle of the road anymore, or just common sense. It seems like.
In fact, I tried to drive the middle of the road, and they gave me a ticket.
Yeah, lots of bills. Lots of policies, lots of things that are happening that are just lawsuits waiting to happen or being resolved before they become lawsuits. It's just a crazy time if you're following along with politics.
Lots to do today. Let's do events.
Lots to do today. Well, yeah, let's do events. So this week's events are brought to you by Buckman's Best Behaviors. Contact Whitney Buckman at 620-805-9429 for fear-free, pain-free, positive reinforcement-based training and behavioral management. And we are back to remind you, don't forget to spring forward this weekend. It's everybody's favorite time of year, daylight savings time. It's been up for discussion nationally after hitting a brick wall in the House last year. A bill to make daylight savings time permanent in the U.S. has been reintroduced. So they're going to be talking about it again. A senator from Florida who introduced the Sunshine Protection Act last year filed a bill on Wednesday that would make daylight savings time permanent. So far, the bill, the Sunshine Protection Act of 2023, has bipartisan support in the Senate and has been referred to the Committee on Commerce, Science, and Transportation.
I was really hoping this was going to be the last one.
Yeah,
it's an annual argument.
Time and money do we need to put into it? It's antiquated. It needs to go away, right? Am I right? Everybody's tired of the spring forward fallback stuff.
I used to do scheduling with distance learning, so I was like scheduling with things all over the country and other countries. I did Korea, I did like Australia, trying to do time zones, and then how many pockets there are in the US that don't even follow the rules. So depending on what time of year it's just ridiculous. Ridiculous.
I'm interested in their I'll have to go read the reasons why that would be the most appropriate option. Like why? Of all the things we could codify in legislation, it's about daylight savings.
Well, I mean, it is in legislation now. We bounce back and forth. And other countries don't. But
exactly. Well, Whitney, what's going on at the JUCO this weekend?
Was that to me? That was to me. Oh, okay. Sorry, I am behind on the times here. The JUCO. The Mercer Gallery is pleased to host the Garden City Community College class of 2015 alumni Tristan Lindo, twin brother of the previous artist Hannah Lindo. This exhibition features artworks from Tristan Lindo's time in graduate school at U of K from 2019 to 2022. During the beginning of Lindo's time in graduate school, many sudden shifts were personal and inevitable in the world. Collectively, these pieces form a journey that started with a significant distress and led to the construction of a science fantasy narrative entitled, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, Sasha. I want to say Sasha, Sascia, a Genesis. After graduating from KU, Lindo is left where he found himself in 2020, free falling between ideas that leave him asking himself, well, now what? Tristan Lindo was born and raised Garden City, Kansas, 1994. And Lindo received his Associate of Fine Arts at GCCC. Sorry, I always have to add extra C's there. In 2015, after his time at the Garden City Community College, Lindo transferred to Fort Hays State University and received his Bachelor of Fine Arts in 2017. When he finished his undergraduate career, Lindo took a year off from academia to create more work and apply for graduate school. In 2019, he would be accepted into the Master of Fine Arts program at the University of Kansas. As of 2022, Lindo graduated from KU with his MFA and currently resides in Lawrence, Kansas, where he continues to create work. The Mercer Gallery will be open Monday through Wednesday from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., Thursdays from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m., and Fridays 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. again. If you'd like more information, you can get in touch with the gallery director, Michael Knutson, Knutson? Is it Knutson? It's Knutson, isn't it? Mm-hmm. At Michael, Michael Knutson, Knutson at gcccs.edu.
Nailed it. We've also got Gunsmoke Sessions, and they present Saturday, March 11th, live from the doctor's office located at 113 Gunsmoke Street in Dodge City, Kansas. $10 cover charge, ages 21 and up, 9 p.m. show. The Gunsmoke Sessions fundraiser show with performances by Ether, Imagine, and Stoll. Is that Imagine? Gunsmoke Sessions is raising funds for the official Gunsmoke Sessions Music Festival. that
I'm
is
going to
taking
pronounce
place.
that imagine. Like, I'm going
I
to
know. I
stress
was like,
that
I love
J.
it either way. Imagine. Yeah. In order to put on a high caliber festival for all to enjoy, they need all the funds they can get to pay professional sound engineers, venue rental, band performances, and more. They are aiming for Gunsmoke Sessions 2023 to be bigger and better. They're doing several giveaways at this fundraiser event. Everyone that comes to the event will be given a raffle ticket upon paying the cover charge at the door for a chance to win a prize. A huge shout out to our sponsor. Oh, no. Yes, Keating. That graciously donated. My prompter disappeared. Donated 2 giveaways: Sensi in Turpin, Oklahoma, and Liberal, Kansas; Boot Hill Distillery in Dodge City, Kansas; Hair Play Salon in Dodge City, Kansas; and Alicia Pena in Garden City, Kansas.
This next event, I know we just did a Dodge City one, but we had to add this one in there because it sounds like fun. So mark your calendars for the 12th annual Boots and Beer benefit auction this Friday, March 10th at 6 p.m. It takes place at the world famous Boot Hill Museum located at 500 Wyatt Earp Boulevard. If you need directions to where Boot Hill is, you just haven't lived in Southwest Kansas very long. But this isn't a 21 or older event for obvious reasons. Check out boothill.org if you want some more information for tickets and whatnot. But yeah, sounds like a good time.
Yeah. So, and finally, of course, and always, Garden City Arts. Bring your own beverage and join us at Garden City Arts for a night of fun and painting. Participants will paint on a 14 by 18 stretched canvas. No previous art experience is needed, as the instructor will provide easy to follow up step-by-step instructions. To ensure a safe environment for participants, GCA will not serve refreshments during these classes, but you are welcome to bring your own. It's $30 for anybody, $25 for members, and as always, presented by the lovely Katie Guthrie. Lots to do this weekend and coming up.
I have I actually do have one more to add that I forgot to add. Tumbleweed Festival. It's not this weekend, but tickets are going on sale. The Tumbleweed Festival on March 31st will be doing a fundraiser event with the Haymakers and Weston Wilkerson at the Moonlight Harvest. You can go to the Tumbleweed Festival website and you can get your tickets there, or go to the Facebook and get the links for that information. It will be on the 31st, and that will be, wristbands are available for $50 each or $80 for 2, and complimentary drinks and food, and the doors will open at 6:30. Show starts at 7, and that should also be a good time. And that like the what was that other one that what's it called?
Gunsmoke Sessions.
Gunsmoke, thank you. I'm like Gunsmoke Sessions.
Mm-hmm.
These events, I just love them because they bring entertainment out here, and it's very hard to bring.
Gosh.
And it costs so much money. That's why we need these fundraisers for these types of events. So
much.
See, the Gunsmoke one made me remember that one, so I just had to add it in there. Sorry, guys.
Right.
And what date was that again?
That is March 31st.
Okay.
Is when the Tumbleweed one will be going off.
Right on.
Oh, nice.
We got time to get a ad in there for next time on that
Exactly.
one.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just get the word out.
That does it for events then. I think we have another ad to do. Caitlin, what do we got for ads?
Visit Smith Auto and Truck Parts at 402 East Burnside in Garden City for all of your vehicle part needs. They offer a wide variety of engines, transmission, axles, used tires, mirrors, rims, door glass, and more. Find what you need for your daily driver or project vehicle by visiting smithauto-truck.com or by calling 620-275-9145. Used doesn't mean used up.
I rolled the wrong one. You guys ready?
Ad.
Here's Smith Auto.
All right. With all of that, we have events out of the way. We had a lot going on this month. We have a fantastic guest. Our first guest to do a follow-up interview with us, actually, here at CKZ. John Dahl's joining us, so we can welcome him in. Hi, John. How are you
How you
tonight?
guys doing?
Good. Thanks for coming back.
Yeah,
We didn't scare you off then.
Oh, you talked about the boots and beer auction. I was able to get back in the day I met Bill Self, and so I was able to get an autograph ball for Bill Self for that auction. We got some things from
Nice.
K-State. When they come up there and they want something, they come in on my office. I said, well, wait a minute here. We're going to have a little talk first. And I was able to score some stuff.
Oh, neat. That's awesome.
That is cool.
It's just called blackmail.
So, hey, at the top of the show, we were talking about how it was a busy day in the State House today. There was some
Thank you for
trans
taking
bills.
time.
Yeah. So, yeah, I really appreciate you coming in. You got to be exhausted by this point. So tell me about the bill that was discussed today and how the votes went. And I watched some of the testimony from yesterday. It seems to be a very impassioned topic.
Well, the first bill, we had two very controversial bills today. In fact, on one of my committees in Commerce, it dealt with daycare, which is a huge topic for everybody. And it was, I think, Senate Bill 258. And seriously, I've gotten probably 250 emails on that today alone by itself. And what it would do is kind of cut. What they want to do is they want to expand how many people one person can watch. So the proponents of it say, we lack daycare, which we do. But are we going to put kids in safety? That's why I look at it. And the reason we lack daycare is because they're getting average pay about $10.03 an hour. I'm sitting there going, let capitalism do its job, pay these people, and you'll get as many daycare people as you want. But
I would do it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people that would do it, but not for $10. I'm not going to watch 3 kids. And then one I think we were talking about.
I want to watch my own kids for $10 an hour.
Okay, just to ask real quick, back when I was a teenager and doing babysitting, the sort of safety measures in at least the nursery at church that we were doing is like 10-1. What do they want to expand it to?
Well, for daycare, it depends on the age. If it's an infant, I think it's 3-1, and then it expands to 5-1 if they're toddlers before they can they can just walk. They can't really talk and such. And then I think it goes like to 6 or 7-1 when it's upper. Now that all changes. Those numbers all change when you have that combination together. I mean, if you have 3 toddlers, you have 3 infants. That's it. You got 3 infants. You need a person for those 3 infants. And the same thing with the toddlers. So if there's a mix and match, the numbers vary a little bit. But it's
rules like that are important, of course.
Yeah, everywhere I go, the 2 things I hear about mostly about local situations is daycare and housing. Those are the 2 things I hear about most. And we have the people that are in charge of helping people with daycares. I was able to, I think you probably saw the one that's off of Mary. You can't mess it. It's just off of Mary. It has about 18 colors on it. It's just,
yeah.
But we were able to get that one open, another one open in Liberal, and another one open in Garden City, because there was money available that people don't know about. And so they would call me, and I would call this girl that I know that works in this department. She said, John, we have COVID money left. And so if you're thinking of starting a daycare or something to that nature, please get in touch with me. That's what my job is, to help constituents. And so I would be happy to guide you in the right direction. I can't make any promises, but this person will get in touch with you, and she's a person that really truly cares and is good at her job.
Awesome.
The other subject you probably wanted to talk about is we had a bill about transgender that we dealt with today. We have final action on it tomorrow, but today, what we do in the Senate or even in the House, you debate it one day, and then you have what's called final action the next day. And final action is just an up or down vote. It takes about 7 seconds. But but today was the debate. I tried to get an amendment. What it amounts to is Acacia, the Kansas State Activities Association, is in charge. So if you get a hold of Acacia, you look at Acacia, they're in charge of 7 through 12. Well, what this bill did was take kindergarten to 12. Like we have a problem. School functions. So I asked them today in this event when I was doing this amendment, I say, so is the kindergarten state basketball tournament in Buckland this year or where? I get that mixed up because nowhere does one kindergarten as a school-sponsored team play another kindergarten or first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, fifth. We needed to take that out. Sixth grade to K needed to be taken out. That's what my amendment said, is because in politics you got to give and take a little bit. And so I thought if we could take that out, that part out, it's because first of all, they can't do it because their Keisha doesn't do it. And then second of all, these kids are vulnerable. Whether you like that lifestyle or not, that's not us to determine. That's not
Sure.
If they're not hurting nobody, a person, that's what America's all about. If you're not hurting someone, you get to do your thing. But
and studies show that without availability to these services in the LGBTQ community, suicide rates can be as high as 45% in some studies.
Transgenders over 50.
And transgenders, yeah, absolutely.
It's about 55%. And
wow.
There's just not enough out there. But to me, a person can be who he wants to be as long as he is not hurting someone else. He's not a deterrent to society.
What I don't understand is why it's such a topic of conversation all of a sudden, because intersex people have existed for as long as humanity has existed. And from what I understand, if you've met a redheaded person, you've probably met an intersex person, because they take up about 2% of the population each, except for you can just look at a redheaded person and know. But so these bills directly affect people that are biologically born this way and people who were psychologically born into the wrong body, as they would see it.
So you're talking science, Zach. Get rid of that.
Exactly.
Okay, here's my frustration. The justification for this kind of legislation is that they're protecting women.
Yeah. So it all
maddening.
started, as we know, with that swimmer, whatever it was, Pennsylvania or Penn State, I believe.
I watched her.
Right,
her
so
testimony.
out of state.
Yeah, and so all of a sudden it became a headline paper, and we're going to protect these women. In Kansas right now, we have 3 transgenders that are participate in athletics. One of them, I believe, is in bowling. One of them is in track, and I can't think what the third one is, but they're not going to be playing in college. They're not athletically enough. They're not
Sure.
there. But what we try to do is we try to find the boogeyman, because it gets your name in the paper. It gets you all this stuff you want. And, I would have laid low on this whole thing. I wouldn't have got an amendment because my name's going to be in the paper and all that kind of stuff now. But these kids are vulnerable, and these kids need to know that somebody, whether I agree with that lifestyle or not, that's not for me to decide.
Here's the other thing.
They need somebody to protect them.
I am equally frustrated on the other side of that justification is that they want to scream that they're not attacking a certain group. And it's like, here's what explicitly writing those terms into the legislation does, is it also diminishes actual issues with women's safety in the public places, because we have to be told that apparently my safety is at stake if somebody needs to use the facilities that I am also using, which in turn then there are very real times when women are exploited in situations that have nothing to do with anyone's sexuality or anything like that. So it's a big way to stop talking about the nuances of those other issues as well. It just
I talked to Zach a little bit about this. I really wonder about our legislature, because over 70% of us want Medicaid expansion. I'm 11 years, I haven't voted on it. Over 70% of us want medical marijuana. I have not had the opportunity to vote on it. And yet we have 67% in both houses that passed value them both, and it fails 60-40 to the people. So does our legislature actually represent our people? And so, Zach and I had to talk about this when I voted for the transgender thing. I take a lot of pride that I vote my district. I don't vote what John Dahl thinks. Now, I will defend it like a son of a gun, like I did today. But when it comes to vote, I have to vote my district. And that's why I ran. I beat people who I didn't think voted their district. They voted for a party. I would be a hypocrite if I didn't vote that's why I ran. And we can argue that all you want, but that's just where
I will say I read a lot of these bills. I spend a lot of time reading the language of these things because I want to understand what they say and not what's being presented as what's being said. And I even read the amendment. I read the process that occurs with those, and I see your name in there a lot when it comes to like those discussions. Especially, you want to see it restated. That's something that's more relatable to the constituents rather than just trying to send it through or voting away.
And one of the reasons that my relationship and friendship with you has maintained over the years is because of your willingness to find out what the people want and vote that way, even if it is against your convictions sometimes. And you're not wrong. Finney County probably would have voted for this bill, frankly.
Yeah.
That's disappointing to say out loud and to recognize, but it is a hard fact. And as you saw at the legislative coffee last Saturday, I asked the same question I ask every new legislator. Do you represent your own wishes or the wishes of the people in your area? And usually I'm leading that into a cannabis question because I know most of my legislators are against cannabis and still live in a reefer madness like state. But it's important to me that if there are elected representative, and a lot of them, their title is representative, will say willingly and openly that, yeah, I represent the people unless I disagree, and then I'm going to vote the way I feel.
And Zach, what you're saying is, yeah, Garden City, Finney County would be a close vote on that. But I represent 10 counties, and the other ones would be landslides. Would be 70,
no, you're not
30,
wrong.
80,
and I say Finney County meaning Southwest Kansas in general because they're similar. But yes.
No, they're not. Garden City itself is fairly purple and a little bit
That's
blue.
True.
But you get outside of Garden City, a mile on any direction, it gets red.
And the ones with the
and that's just it's always been that way. It's not people are who they are. They grow up, their parents, and it gets passed down. Most, when I was teaching government, it's in government books are my government books, not some other representatives that we've known in the past, but 80% of us are what our parents were. If our parents were Democrats, we're a Democrat. Now, sometimes it can change, like the Civil Rights Bill of '64 changed a lot of people to Republican here when it was Democrat. The Civil War changed a lot of Democrats to Republicans because they freed the slaves. When you have huge events, that's when you have a big shift.
Right. And so we could stay on this subject probably all night and probably not move any further with it at the same time. It's weird that we're talking about that we have two people in the whole state and we're making laws based on two people in the whole state. And it's weird. But you have a bill that you co-sponsored right now for creating the Veterans First Medical Cannabis Act to regulate the cultivation, distribution, sale, possession, and use of medical cannabis, right?
Yeah.
Tell me what the goal is of that bill, because I don't know if I'm 100% there yet.
What the makeup of the bill is?
What is the objective of it?
To get medical cannabis for veterans that have PTSD and things like that. We got to take a step somewhere, and hopefully then it would go to citizens that have mental issues. Then it would, it's a first step of many steps we got to have, Zach. And so this one here, if you can't do what you can do for veterans who went over there and are coming back messed up, especially back in my era, the Vietnam people. It was just awful. And, the Iraq people, but I knew a lot of these guys, and they come home a lot different than what they left. And if we can't allow them to smoke a joint to calm down and to be able to function, we need to take a long look in the mirror. So that's my view of that, Zach.
Sure. And, other states have set great models for legalization. I don't think any of them that I'm aware of have started with just veterans, but it's an interesting tactic. But I had a veteran reach out to me today, and he had a comment about it that I wanted to bring to you. He said, and this veteran used to work with me for Kansas Normal, so he knows cannabis well, but he said approximately 35 times of the approximately 35 times veterans are mentioned in the bill, only twice is it not referring to the name of the bill itself. So his concern is he referred to it as camo washing. It's using the veterans as a platform to achieve an objective, in his opinion, and that's coming from a vet and not myself.
I can see where
he's clear on that.
But that's not where I'm at. But I have respect where he's coming from. If you remember, Zach, when we had when I was on city commission and we were doing the smoking ban, I fought it very hard, especially for the American Legion and VFW. And, I said, if we could just keep exempt those two places out, because we got two guys from Vietnam that only those two guys could understand. If they want to go in and have a couple of beers in a Marlboro, go for it. You've earned that right. You know what I'm saying? So I feel the same way with them. I lost a cousin in Vietnam, and so I have a very, very feeling for veterans that, if that's using it for a stepping stone, and he feels that way, that's okay. I mean, I understand where he's coming from, but that's not what's in my heart. It might be the other guys. I'm a co-sponsor of several sponsors.
Sure.
I don't know where they're at, but I can honestly say from my heart, that's not where I'm at.
Do you think we're going to see any movement on cannabis this session?
No, it's in Fed State. We have a chairman there by the name of Mike Thompson, and no.
Yeah, that sounds par for the course.
Well, it is. I mean, we had a shot when Rob Olson was and he tried real hard to get it through, and he would just run into some barriers. They took it away from him and gave it to this guy, Mike Thompson. And as soon as I saw that, I knew it was DOA.
Kansas Normal last year was pretty convinced that was going to go through until that happened. And we knew at that point it was dead on the water.
Yeah, Rob Olson, I think, would have got it to the finish line if they just gave
dead on arrival. Where did dead on the water come from? Dead on arrival.
Yeah. DOA.
Okay. So another bill you're co-sponsoring is providing a back-to-school sales tax holiday for the school supplies, computers, clothing, school supplies
diapers
of that nature. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what we wanted when I called, and actually that was my bill originally. And what you got to understand how the game's played. I am a moderate Republican, or I'm just me. I'm not a political party guy. I don't like any of them, to be honest with you. But I knew that for this to have a shot, that I had to pass it on. So I gave it to a very conservative guy who I thought would take it. So he took it and ran with it. But I was the one that got it drawn up. And so when I went to legislative research about it, I said, I want it better than Colorado's, I want it better than Oklahoma's, and I want it better than Missouri's. So ours is a day longer. We have a lot more things. The conservative guy come up to me and goes, "Oh, you have diapers on here." I said, "Yeah, I got diapers on there." But, I mean, they're going to be kids. I want everything. I want ours to be so much better. I want people from Missouri coming over. So our list was so much longer than everybody else's. So here's what they did to me. Last year, there was a real tight vote. We put it back in this year, but there was a real tight vote. And this same guy come to me and said, if you vote for this, I probably will get this over the line, this tax holiday. I told him to go to hell.
So it sounds like an amicable bill, like taking the taxes off of all that stuff I think it would be like for a week.
No, it's 3 days.
3 days. And that would be my biggest concern of it is, would these stores be able to have enough supplies and staff in order to handle the influx that would occur from that, having come from a retail background? That sounds like a nightmare.
Also,
Well,
I used to do
Black
point of
Friday
sale
on-
systems. And so I'm specifically curious about how because we've seen, I can't remember when it happened, but there was a tax situation when the food tax was different than the other taxes, and that thing went through where the point of sale system was incorrect. So I'm just wondering, with the 3 days, the liability of that situation. So I actually didn't know that Colorado and Oklahoma already do this. So
Well, see, here's the deal. It wouldn't be, and it's the same with the food thing too, but that's a whole nother story. But you would still pay local tax. What you're not paying is the 6.5% state tax.
Okay.
And so you would still be paying, like in Garden City, it'd be like 3.5 cents on the merchandise. Now the food tax starting July 1 has gone down a point. We're making a drive to zero, and everybody's messing with that because it's a political football right now. The Democrats are saying this, Republicans are putting this in. Republicans put in so they would take it away from cities too, which would be an awful idea because, Garden City, we could take it a little bit because we have implement dealerships, we have car dealerships, but a town like Cimarron or Holcomb, where they don't have dealerships, they're going to have to raise their property taxes in order to survive because you're going to take all their sales tax away. There's a lot of that. That's their revenue. That's all their revenue.
Okay. Caitlin, you want to take a question?
yeah, okay. So SB 211, SB 211, abolishing the death penalty and creating the crime of aggravated murder. This is new for us, and Kansas has not needed or used the death penalty since 1965. So what is the timing of it, basically? Why is that popping up?
I'm against the death penalty, just to be straight up. I'm
Same.
against it. But, people like the Carr brothers and such, I don't think they should be pampered in any which way. The BTK guy, those people are just plain evil. We shouldn't kill them, but maybe leave a knife in their prison or something. In the case they have a bad day. I don't know, but that's terrible to say. But
None of us have sympathy for them.
yeah, it's just I don't. Yeah, but I'm not sure where you want me to go with this.
I was just curious why we were bringing it up at this point. I mean,
because there's people want the death penalty back badly.
Okay.
And so we have the death penalty back. We just haven't used it because the courts have stopped it. And what they want to do is they want to make it so the courts can't stop it anymore. And that's where and we with litigation. And speaking of courts and such, on the time change, I put this down. I just saw it on my notes. We can change that at the state level. We can make Kansas one, by itself.
One
like
time.
Arizona.
Yeah, but
let's do it.
Well, I think
let's do that campaign. People,
when you do that, the logistics of things like when you're trading across states, it just we need to make it a federal deal. But
sure,
I don't know if we have time for that. I don't know if you heard, but there's transgender kids that want to play sports. So do we have time? Do we have the time? Okay, so establishing the Sunflower Education Equity Act to provide education savings account for qualified students in Kansas, giving students $5,000 in enrollment. This was brought up at the legislative coffee last week. Sounds like there's some people on board with taking state tax dollars and giving it to a private school.
Well, they don't actually give it to the private school. They give it to the family of a private school. So what then they're given tax credits for companies to provide for a kid to go to a private school. They want the money, $5,000, to follow the student is what it amounts to, which I'm really against. First of all, public schools, I think Article 6, Section 6 of the Kansas Constitution is very clear about public school, public money for public school. I sent my kids to a private school K through 6, I paid for it, expected to pay for it. I've taught at private schools. There's a lot of advantages to a private school, but there's a lot of advantage going to I'm glad my kids went to a public school, junior high and high school, because they need to learn about life. Sometimes private school, you are still in a cocoon in a way, you know what I'm saying? And it's the money following them, I think, is an awful idea for a couple of reasons. There's another reason is that I've heard this scam going on. It's like, let's say I get 10 kids and
Thank you. Yes. Okay.
You give me the money, so I got $50,000 and I'm going to do all the paperwork for these kids. These kids don't have to do anything. But I get 20% of that and your parents will get the rest of it. Right. So I'm walking away or I get 50%, I get 25,000, they get 25,000, but they're going to come back to the school system when they're a sophomore and not know how to read, write, or anything because they won't have had any education. Why wouldn't a poor guy do that? A poor parent who could care less about a kid in school. Education's the only way out of poverty.
Absolutely. And then wouldn't that I was reading about this sort of double dipping factor too, regarding when you're filing, that more ends up in the pocket of the person who's receiving the money because you can do a lot more on top of the money following the student.
I'm sorry, Caitlin, I don't understand the question. I've had a long day.
Absolutely.
What can you try that again with me?
Yeah. Okay. So the money follows the student around, and it sounds very complicated, and I don't remember all of the stipulations. But then during tax season, I think that the same recipient of the money can get a credit for it, or
that's the tax credits, and that's more of companies giving that money that gets the $5,000 that they get the $5,000. A company will give because tuition's more than $5,000. Okay, so the tuition that they get, that company that gives that money will get tax credits for it up to, I think it's $500,000. I mean, tax credits. That's what we're doing is it's like the flat tax. Flat tax. The top 3% get 43% of the tax return when we do that 4.5, whatever Tyson wants to do with the tax cut. We're just helping the rich and the poor. You're on your own.
Well, first of all, if you ask any teacher from Michigan how that program worked out in Michigan, well, they would say, I'm in Kansas. And that's just the kind of the story. I would say a large portion of our teachers are from Michigan at this point.
Well, a lot of that came from when the factories all closed down too, Zach. When we had big
fair,
yeah.
But the other thing of it is if you have wealthy members of your society and they have opportunities to get better education at private schools, then there's no reason for them to want to invest in the public schools. But if those kids have to go to the public schools, then they'll spend the money on the public schools. That model is used in other countries across the globe. And the biggest fear I have is of a public education system is it being monetarily privatized, because when money is the primary driver, the education will come dead last.
Now, being a former teacher, here's my view of it real quick. Whether it's private school or public school, a lot of things, the reasons education's gone bad is because we don't have two parents at home. And the parents, we're trying to take the parents completely out of it. They need to read to their kids. They need to ask the kids when they come home from school, what did you learn? We banned Dr. Zeus, for God's sake, out of Florida. Roberto Clemente cannot be read in Florida. If that kid is reading an inappropriate book and the parent don't know it, that's on the parent. That's not on the kid. That's not on the school. That's not on the librarian. That's on the parent. One of the things and I'm not saying I was a great parent or anyone, but when my kids come home from school, especially when they're private school, I said, Zach, what'd you learn today? And right off the start, they say, oh, nothing. And so I would start going to the phone and they, what are you doing, Dad? And so I'm calling your teacher. You got screwed. I mean, you didn't learn anything, and I know you're working. So I'm going to get all over that teacher. And so when he come home the next day and I asked him what he learned at school that day, he was rattling, he didn't want me calling no teacher. So, it was a fake call.
Well, sure.
I think the thing is we have access, we have the opportunity and the tools to find out what our kids are learning.
Yes, and we can, and you could, and it's a responsibility. I used to coach, and if my players would just shoot baskets, and if they would just play during basketball season, they weren't going to go nowhere. If they weren't shooting the ball in the off season, I mean, a lot. If they weren't playing, they're not going to make the team. That's just when I was in Wichita. If they weren't making the team, if they weren't playing, they weren't going to. If they were playing 3 months out of the year, forget about it. I didn't want them. So it's the same with football players. If they're not lifting year round, they're not going to be good in football. It's the same thing with school. If you're not reading year round, you're not going to be a good reader. If you take 3 months off in the summertime because the summer deficit learning. It's Greg Orman used to talk about that all the time. That was one of the things he wanted to change, was to make sure kids are reading in the summertime because they lose so much. And you talk to any elementary teacher or teacher, and they'll tell you they got to spend their first 2 months and get the kid caught back up to where they were at the end of the last school year.
It's an interesting point that we've gotten to, and I don't feel like education is the primary driver of the people wanting to make these changes. At least the primary education of all children isn't their goal anymore. And we don't educate our populace enough to understand that how important it is to invest. For every dollar you put into education, you're going to get 5 back. And we do a great job especially in Southwest Kansas. We do a great job of training professionals and giving professionals experience. We do a terrible job of keeping them.
Here's the change. The biggest change we've had in education has been a positive change. Is back when I was in school, there was no option. You're going to college, period. Now you can go to a tech school. You can go to this school. You go to a specialized. There's no question that post-secondary education is going to help you. It's going to get it. It's going to get you more money. There's so many statistics out there, but it doesn't have to be college. It could be a VOTech. It could be the tractor thing down at the junior college or the community college, or tech school in Goodland and Colby. It's not like it was then, but you still got to do some secondary education of some sort. That's the biggest change in education that I see. Teachers, why I think in Southwest Kansas, to answer your question on that, Zach, is because parents care more in Southwest. We have, I think that you still have more of a community, and although sometimes it stinks, it's not that. At the end of the day, you go there, you go to another town, and we got it pretty good at Southwest Kansas. We're good people, and we care about one another. And if a kid's screwing up, I think we're going to help them. And it's not like that in Wichita, for example, at least part of Wichita. So that's we got pretty good out in Western Kansas. It could be so much better, though. That's the most frustrating thing about being a state senator. I tell my wife this at least once every 2 weeks. I says, I'll come home so frustrated. I says, Janet, we could do so much for so many people, and we just don't. And that's probably that breaks my heart. And today was a perfect example of that. Was just, I walk out of there and we're just trying to drive home a point instead of helping people. And that's to me is not what government's about. And that's really frustrating. And I got a year to go. And I'm going to be glad when I'm done.
Well, I'm scared of what happens when you don't run again. I know you've talked about your retirement often, and God knows you've earned it. But let's just face it, it's going to be Lon Pishney who goes for that spot, and that's not going to be good for.
Well, there's going to be a lot of
Kansas.
Yeah, but there's Bill Clifford who's going to go for it. There's going to be he's already spoken about it. There's going to be a lot of people. People from outside of Garden City. District 10. We're losing Haskell County, but we're picking up Scott County and Lane County because of the redistricting. So somebody from Scott might run. You don't know. But what's sad about running is you got to be either too young or too old. because people that
Yeah.
are in their money making days, when you're making $88 a day, that's what we make. You can't feed a family on it.
Right. Let alone maintain 2 households that are overpriced.
Well, you get a pretty good per diem. You get $128. That'll pay your hotel room and your meals and such. But I don't know. They're talking about, that's one of the big things they're talking about is paying like $50,000, a salary, which wouldn't be a bad gig for 5 months. That's 10 grand a month. If you can't live on that, you got to look in a mirror. It's not going to
Sure.
get rich, but you can live on it. And if you were a teacher, it'd work out pretty good. You could teach first semester and then go play legislator second semester. And, you keep that, you're working full time. Then you're 50 grand there and 50, whatever you make a semester teaching. I don't know what they pay now. I just know how bad it was when I was teaching. But you're going to be making enough to feed a family.
And a teacher would be a great candidate for running for office. So absolutely.
I'd say if they got enough money to run, it takes, like Will Rogers says, it takes a whole lot of money just to get beat.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the only players in the game have money, really.
That's if you don't necessarily have to have money, but you're going to have access to money. And we got a guy that was making Subway sandwiches that won, and now he works for Coke, young dude, and he was making sandwiches when he ran, a young guy, but so he had a sugar daddy. This is what we call it.
Yeah. I was going to say I want to be too proud about working for Coke, but I'm sure his paycheck is just fine.
He's doing pretty good in the legislature. He's moved up in leadership in the House.
All right. Well, I knew the conversation was going to get a little deep today. I knew it was going to get a little heavy. So I decided to. Have you heard of Chat GPT?
No.
Okay. So there's this new AI program called Chat GPT, and you can plug in any question, you can tell
I had
it.
that. My son turned me on to that. Yeah, that's
Okay.
cool stuff, man. Yeah.
So I'm
I
like,
love it.
I'm interviewing a state senator tonight. Let's see what a GBT would say.
Yeah. That's
So
great.
the first thing it threw out there was probably the most basic question you can imagine. What inspired you to be a politician? And I was like, I can't see myself asking that question.
Yeah,
I'm not that lame.
I can't see myself. I was having a bad day. But I did that on transgender testing. Transgender. I used that chat thing.
Okay.
And I used that today when I was speaking.
Did you?
How are transgenders tested to see, if they're transgender? And I used that today, and I know we're talking about protecting kids. Google that, put that on chat.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah,
That's your search history, not mine.
Yeah.
And I think you were asking about, how the bill would have language for intersex individuals. And it's like, I think that the language of it was that a woman is constituted as somebody who can produce ova, and a man is constituted as somebody who can fertilize that ova. And I was like, wow, that's
I am no longer a man.
I mean, I know a lot of people
Thank you.
that can't fertilize an egg. They've been trying to have kids, and they can't have kids. Something's going on, and so I call them transgenders.
I mean, by that definition.
No, but yeah, that's I like that what you did with that chat. Though that was funny. When my son was showing me that, it just blew me away.
It's a fun technology. It's been interesting to see it develop. I don't get to see it do any of the crazy stuff because by the time it says something wild, they've done corrected that, I think, before you get in there.
You don't need that.
I don't need any influence on that.
No. You stay away from the crazy stuff, man.
So one of the questions that put out there I did like, though, it says, as a state senator, what role do you see Kansas playing in addressing climate change and promoting clean energy? We have this lithium ion plant coming, and I don't see that going well for Kansas clean in the environment. I'm just curious, what is our role in that?
Well, the lithium, in a sense, it depends what they can do with the waste, but that's going to create electric cars, electric trucks, electric trains, so that could help the climate change. What Kansas is doing is We've given credits for wind farms and solar farms, which is good for the environment. We need to get to geothermal. We need to get to those kind of energy things like that. And Kansas has kind of been, on wind farms. I think we're third in the nation on wind farms.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Solar farms,
Yeah.
solar farms we're getting better at, but we need to do more with solar farms. So I think Kansas actually hasn't done a bad job with that. Our industry, and I'm not going to knock beef because that's what we live on. I mean, that's our world. If we get rid of beef, Western Kansas is gone. And so, that's not good for the methane and all that, but they're finding uses for Greg Orman again. That's what he's making his money on right now is methane gas. They're trapping that methane gas and they're converting it and using it now. So
That's
right
why I
now,
love science.
yeah, but they're doing it with pigs now, but eventually it'll move to cattle, and it'll be, these digesters that you can create, and so
Sure.
it will make, So I think Kansas has done a pretty good job with that, personally.
Right on. So, okay, we had a good show. I think we've talked about a lot. Do you have anything you would like to add to the conversation that I didn't touch on?
I really, really admire what you guys are doing. This is a cool thing. I hope the whole world catches on to it because, this is a low key thing. I can say what I want, as a politician.
Sure.
Very few can I say that to. If people bust me on this, I think you guys have my back, because, I would think. And, and if I said something wrong or stupid, you'd let me know. I mean, that's just,
Sure.
and that's what it's got to be. That doesn't mean you hate me or I hate you, but if somebody comes after me because I'm protecting transgender, I think you have my back,
Yeah,
100%.
absolutely.
And so what you guys are doing here for your generation is a good thing. And what I really want to tell you guys is get involved, please. I know it's tough. Economically, it's tough. But you need to get on boards. You need to get on city commission, county commission. You need to run for state representative. We need young people. Us old white guys need somebody to take our place. We don't need a bunch of old white people on everything. And that's what it is right now.
I think that's
You said
fantastic
it.
words. I think that's fantastic words to close on.
All right.
Absolutely.
John,
guys
thank
take
you
care.
so much for joining us. I can't wait to do it again. When you run into Bob Lewis, let him know that we've asked him to join us. Let him know that hey, you should give him a shot.
Hey, you know who you need to get in touch with? I'm going to plug out there.
Sure.
Ulysses guy. His name's Dave Younger.
Dave Younger.
Dave Younger is a rep.
Can't write that down.
And he's good people. He's very well spoken. He was superintendent for years down at Ulysses, and he replaced Marty Long, who replaced Steve Alford. That's a red area down there, and he actually voted no on the final bill of transgender, so his time might be short. But that was the right vote to make. And I sit there going, don't fall on a sword for something. And he said, well, John, that's the right thing. And I'm sitting there going, yeah, but there might be a thing that's real close that you can fall on. You can live for another day. And I don't know if he's going to. I mean, this is interesting. I mean, that takes guts to do what he did. And so he'd be a good interview.
Okay.
And he listens to your show all the time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he told me that. He says he's caught you a number of times. He said you guys do a great job.
Fantastic.
Great.
We'll reach out to him this week. Absolutely.
Okay, you take care, guys.
Thanks, John.
Thank
Have a
you.
great night.
Bye.
So that was a good interview. I enjoyed it.
It was. I appreciate one that he's been doing session all day and then came to hang out, but also too is willing to hear something different and willing to be, poked about things and willing to have a conversation and not just use the time to campaign. So it's really nice to go through issues and how that works with them.
And for him to come on multiple times, like John said, we were talking backstage before the show started, and he says, Zach, you've ended more political careers than I've seen start, or something along those lines. And so for him to continue to come back and visit with us, knowing that we're going to ask the hard questions and we're not going to throw softballs just because we know each other. I really appreciate him taking that kind of time. And so, yeah, we're going to have to reach out and get, I keep thinking Bob Lewis because he took over for John Wheeler. But yeah, we need to get the Ulysses people involved a little bit. They're just as close as the Dodge City people.
They are really close. And for me, like my ears perk up because I am from Holcomb, and how even more isolated those communities can be from conversation. So we don't unless there's a magnifying glass or a.
Yeah, if there's not enough news for us here in the Garden City area, there's definitely not enough news for everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, they should be able to state their case and for other people to understand that. I mean, like if he's getting flack for a vote like that, that's wild. Like,
yeah.
What is happening?
I want to bring Kent and Whitney back in for a little bit. Just keep a quick conversation. Sorry I didn't tell you guys, but we're just gonna do.
Hello, we're still
Hello.
here.
Good conversation.
Good show,
tonight,
guys. Yeah.
Did you want to add anything into it? Any comments, thoughts?
I think I agree that the times are changing. Things are getting a little weird. There's not enough moderates that are out there anymore. We are very lucky to have someone who is as level-headed as John Dole is. There's been tons of things that we have disagreed on and agreed on, and there's always a path forward, and we need that type of leadership, to continue on. And I'm really sad to see that he's retiring, but he absolutely deserves it. And I hope that whoever replaces him is just as fantastic, or at least willing to listen to their constituents and maybe vote the way the majority of them would want to vote versus what their individual beliefs are, which we've been told by other politicians that represent our areas. So I don't know, it's always refreshing.
I've seen him hear from a lot of people who disagree with his positions, and he's always willing to hear that and then ingest and respond without like those sort of canned responses. Like he wants to have a conversation. And
I will say I'm always very entertained with a senator's last run, because that's when they tend to let loose, and he's been letting loose a lot more. He always kind of let loose before, but now it's even like unfettered, because he knows, he's like, you know what, these guys are being jerks. And I like that very straightforwardness that he was given during the whole interview.
Yeah.
Well,
absolutely. I love the chat GPT thing too. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah,
that was kind of fun.
Knowing John and doing these stream shows and live stream things and having to walk him through the technology into things, I'm really proud of him for checking out the AI stuff. He's still hip.
Yeah, it's been a fun tool. I've been playing with it. I like it.
I have seen some really cool applications for it. A lot of positive. I know there's a bunch of negative
and scary.
Exactly. That's how I would describe it. But also, it depends on how you apply it. And I've seen a lot of people encouraging other people to do,
We've all seen the Terminator movies.
Well, I was the same way about flamethrowers. They're cool and scary.
Well, that's what I'm like. Yeah. We've all seen the Terminator movies. We can all agree that was a cool and scary movie.
Accurate. That's accurate.
All right. Thank you guys. Absolutely. Thank you everybody for joining us tonight. Mm-hmm. I can't think of any better way to end the show.
No,
everybody else got anything?
Fantastic job, guys.
You guys did fantastic. Thank you everybody for tuning in. I pushed Zach to do this all the time.
I push you to do it all the time.
You know what?
That's why it came up in Ducks.
I want to see a group of people who support similar thing. Like if a campaign's going to exist, are we all gonna help each other out? Like are all four of us going to run, and then another 16 people are going to run for the same thing, so that we have, are we cohesively discussing?
The
What
number of
changed?
times I've been asked to run for various weird things, I lost count. However, I will say that might cause a divorce if I ever try to run for something. So
Yeah.
That's fair.
that's out of the game.
Yeah. It's time consuming for sure.
It is.
You're right.
Yeah.
That's an
You have to
appropriate
have
question.
resources
we
to do
spend
it.
a lot of time shitting on
I-
things that we find problems with. So my dad did teach me, something akin to like, if you're gonna complain about it, then you should do something about it as well.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Well, and here we are. I feel like
it takes
we're
an
doing
army.
something.
Like it definitely takes a village.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
And
And I think that's the
I-
big part of this show. I think
Exactly.
it's to let people know that there are other people out there that may think like them. Red and blue both suck.
and
we
just
want
getting the
things that
information
work
out there. How many people
for
don't
the
know?
average people. We're tired of the division. We're tired of just the absolute craziness. But anyway, guys, watch out for us this weekend. We might drop something a little bit special. There's a lot more going on. We didn't have enough time to talk about here tonight, like USD 457 and just the exodus of employees really is what we wanted to talk about. But we didn't have time. So maybe this weekend we'll drop something quick, fast, short on it. Who knows? We've been tossing
Keep
it
an eye out.
But keep an eye out. But thanks
We
for
want to
tuning
get more
in.
content out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And we want to hear from you. Let us know if you've got something you want to talk about. You can talk about it anonymously with any one of us hosts by messaging us privately, or if you don't care talking to all four of us at the same time, message the show page.
Or just
we'd be happy
point
to
us a
listen to
direction
you.
to look. Point us
Yeah,
a
or if
direction
you
to
have
look.
I
a
love that crap. Give me
or if you
right
have
kind
an,
of question that just like
yeah,
Send us down a rabbit hole.
yeah.
exactly
Yeah, take-
like
you mentioned, I dropped one little sentence in the in our chat group, and Caitlin will have a whole list of resources for us. Like, just boom, it's crazy, it's awesome.
Oh man,
Uh,
it's so
Little
crazy.
ChatGPT.
Like like back in the late 90s when you start, and so when Google came around and you're learning how to like utilize a search engine's,
Mhm.
Yes,
like the way that
Mhm.
the way that it's progressed now, and how
the lithograms and
it's so
star
frustrating
and
that you can't
hashtag
just
and-
use your keywords and that what you actually need to find is coming up. You have to like
Mhm.
trick it
Yeah,
with
well-
specific verbiage.
Yeah, and I can get
Yeah.
into I've been preaching against the Google bubble for like
Sure.
over a decade.
Yeah.
I think Zach heard some of my early rants about it, but like
Probably.
I feel like the Google bubble has separated us all. So
Yeah.
what you search and what I search, we might say the exact same
Exactly.
sentence, but we will not get the same feed.
No.
So,
yeah, depends
just
on
sends
what
us
you've
all
looked at
down our own
before,
thing.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yep.
Anyway, we want to say thank you so much again for tuning in tonight and supporting and loving us. buymeacoffee.com/CKC show. It's kind of a tongue twister. Drop by, buy us a coffee. Let us know you love us. We love you. We'll see you next week. Like, share, subscribe, and smash that like button, follow button.
Thank you,
smash
guys.
Smash like.
We love you.
I need to get a
all.
club. I need to get a club
Yes.
for that. Smash like.
Well,
Yeah, test. Better. We'll take a minute to envision it, been the vision deriving from a difference of opinion. Inquisitive, isn't it? When the picture in the mirror isn't shit, but give it a minute, fix this image and hit the brick with the viciousness. But don't play, cause one day you'll be saying, you shoulda, coulda, woulda, but my shit it just wouldn't drop, cause you wouldn't have. But you're so worried, it was your world. And when you hit them with the rhymes, they had no words. Just come back to the flip of the tongue fun that you once had and chug it like a beer and crush that. Go shave your mustache and write it down, cut that, and show 'em what's rap again. Oh, 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 I'm getting tired of that. I don't know anymore what they call rap. Getting so you know that something's missing. Let's go show 'em what rap is again. Like taking a step out of your front door for the first time and you want more with the sunshine, but you've been locked away, forgetting you don't care who listens is not part of the mission. Just say what you got to say, whether it makes sense. Just a bunch of gibberish, spit from the hip, slipping so sharp, and splitting your lip. You get a grip, cause as good as your shit is, you know it really isn't a big deal. Cause it'll turn heads bound too. It's your purpose, round two. But you gotta open your eyes and realize it's right here. But to open your mind, you gotta try to fight fear and find a light bright enough to ignite and excite peers. But get their attention, I find You gotta give 'em a big boom. You're the few, and I got my lighter right here. Oh, 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 I'm getting tired of that. I don't know anymore what they call that. Getting so you know that something's missing. Let's go show